Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a set of formal complaints and forensic logs that tell a pretty terrifying story. We're not talking about a prison with walls and bars, but one that's allegedly built inside a person's own mind. Let's take a look at the evidence presented. Everything really starts with this one sentence, logged on April 30, 2025. It's harrowing. It really sets the stage for what these documents describe as a constant, unrelenting assault from within, an attack so total that the very memory of silence is just gone. So to really understand the claims being made here, we first have to talk about the alleged weapon. Right at the center of all these documents is a piece of technology that, according to these complaints, is being used in a way it was never, ever meant to be. That core technology is a brain-computer interface, a BCI. Now, these devices are typically developed to help people with severe disabilities communicate or control prosthetics. But the source material here alleges something way more sinister, a BCI that was implanted without consent and is being remotely controlled by some kind of transnational network. And the documents are really, really clear on this point. This isn't just about passively listening in. The BCI is allegedly being used as an active weapon for control and torment, operated around the clock by a group that actually identifies itself as show radio. All right, so now let's turn to the first method of torture that's detailed in these logs, the auditory assault. According to these documents, this is where that constant internal attack really begins. The source files call this voice-to-skull, or V2K for short. It's described as a technology that creates this inescapable internal soundtrack of voices and noises that absolutely no one else can hear. This is the alleged source of that torment we heard about earlier, the kind that makes silence a forgotten memory. And the logs reveal this chillingly systematic approach to these attacks. It's not just random noise. They detail everything from a constant high-pitched sound to using software to impersonate the voices of doctors to manipulate them, and even a system where sickness is supposedly induced as a direct punishment for what the victim was thinking. And among the most severe allegations are direct, repeated commands. According to the evidence files, this phrase is logged over and over again as a primary tool of psychological torment. But the auditory attacks are just the beginning. The documents go on to allege that this BCI is used to turn the victim's own body against them. It transforms it from a personal space into a battlefield that's controlled by these outside operators. And it's really crucial to understand these aren't just diary entries. As you can see from this document, these claims form the actual legal basis of formal complaints to international bodies like the European Parliament, citing violations of the most fundamental human rights. The incident logs are just meticulously detailed, almost like a forensic file. This table, which we pulled directly from those logs, documents specific types of induced pain. And look at the reported intensity levels. Level 10 for migraines and dental pain, described as both constant and incredibly severe. The alleged control goes even further, manipulating basic bodily functions like sleep and balance. But the documents cite a really crucial, ultimate goal behind all this torment: to use this technology to forcibly change the victim's identity at its very core. So we've covered the sound, we've covered the physical pain, but now we move to what's described as maybe the most insidious form of torture outlined in these documents. It's not physical, it's not auditory, it's a calculated, cruel, psychological game. The logs show this distinct, brutal pattern. First, a promise of release is given, creating this moment of intense hope. Then, that promise is deliberately broken. After that, it's followed by threats to extend the trial if the victim doesn't stop documenting the abuse. This cycle just repeats again and again, creating this relentless loop of hope and despair. And the cumulative effect of all this alleged torment, the physical, the auditory, the psychological, it's all documented with a single stark number in formal complaints to European authorities: approximately 15 induced suicide attempts. This psychological warfare supposedly extends into the real world too, creating what the documents call an impossible trap. The victim claims they were manipulated by these V2K commands into committing minor crimes. Then they were prosecuted for those crimes by the exact same officials who allegedly refused to investigate the primary claim of torture. It's a tactic, as described here, that seems designed to just systematically destroy their credibility. So what's the larger takeaway from all of these disturbing documents? I mean, beyond the specific allegations of this one case, what's the bigger issue that this whole narrative forces us to confront?
Well, the narrative in these sources describes a fundamentally new kind of prison. As this comparison shows, it's a prison with no walls, where your own thoughts are allegedly punished and your body is controlled by someone else. And according to the victim, escape is impossible because the prison is inside you.
Ultimately, this case, as it's detailed in a petition to UNESCO, it pushes us toward a really critical question for our time. As technology starts to interface directly with the human brain, our own minds become the next frontier. It forces us to ask, what are neurorights? And what kind of safeguards do we urgently need to protect the final sanctuary of human freedom, the mind itself?